So we're really going to focus on how to get your core working so that you know exactly what you should be doing when we're doing all of our abs works later on. So all you're going to need is potentially some pillows, but you're going to come down to have a little lie on the floor. And it should be quite comfortable there. And your feet are going to be in line with your sitting bones, so those bony bits in the middle of your bottom that you normally sit on. And you're just going to let everything settle. And I want you to make sure that your bottom is completely relaxed and that you can feel the heaviness in the back of your tail, back of your ribs, and back of your head. And you'll hear me talk about this a lot in other subscription classes, particularly as we get further on. So all we want you to do is start by breathing. And you can see I've got my hands on my tummy, so on my lowest tummy, and that's where I want you to go. So can you breathe right into your lowest tummy? We want you to expand that and let it sink and settle. Now, if you just keep breathing through your nose for me, so not breathing out through your mouth, but just breathing through your nose, you'll notice that your tummy, even as you breathe normally, rises and falls. Now that's really key because that should be happening even when we're working our abdominals. So the thing that changes when we're working our abdominals is the tone, so how hard it is will change, but nothing will change in terms of how much this goes up and down. So I want you to just keep breathing there for me. And you're going to move your hands out onto your hip bones. So those are the bony bits on the outside of your hip. And you're going to let your hands drop in and drop down by about an inch or so. And you're going to give me a cough, like a proper cough. So when you've done that, what you'll feel is that there's a muscle that kind of presses up into your hand. Now that's going to be really key. So you're going to keep one hand there and move the other hand to your tummy. And you're just going to keep breathing. Now, I want you to see what you can do. So as you breathe out, can you see if you can feel a little bit of pressure coming into your hip bone hand? And then as you breathe in, it naturally relaxes. So my first question to you is, how do you do that? So as you breathe out, is it the sense of trying to press your fingers at your hip bone away? Breathe in, let it go. As you breathe out, is it the sense of drawing your hip bones together that helps you? And then let it go. Is it the fact that you can feel just your tummy drop backwards and that allows you to find a bit of pressure? But what do you need to do to feel this pressure building up in your hip bones? And at the same time, continue to feel your tummy drop. So what you're going to get is that your hip bone hand comes up as your tummy hand comes down, and that's going to kind of stabilize and equalize the sort of shape of your tummy. So just go with that a few more times. And if you're not sure, pause, go back to that, can you cough, feel the pressure, and then work out what you need to do to make that happen. Now, if you think that you've got it, I want you to find that contraction, keep that contraction, and then see if you can breathe, see if you can talk, see if you can sing, all of that sort of stuff. You should sound like you can freely breathe, freely kind of speak without sounding kind of constipated and like you're working really, really hard. This is only about 10% of your strength. You should be able to do this anytime with no issues. And then just let it go again. So I want you to do that a few times for me. And I want you to notice this time is if you really quickly kind of feel that muscle switching on and you suddenly feel sort of the back of your rib cage pushing into the floor or maybe your tailbone tucking up. And I want you to see if you can stop all that happening. So those 3 heavy spots mean that we've got our natural curves in our back. So our back of our tail, back of our ribs, back of our head. And those are the 3 that should stay the same when we're doing this type of movement or anything where you're not coming up into kind of a sit-uppy type position. So anything where you're lying on your back, kind of wiggling your arms and your legs around. So can you just keep breathing in and out? Every time you breathe in, you let everything go, including your back passage. And as you breathe out, you find that gentle connection across your lower abdominals, tummy's still dropping, but nothing changes in the back of you. So I want you to just do a few more of those. See if you can sort of have all those feelings. And this is where we start to build up a bit of body awareness. So if you ask yourself those questions, you can do that one at a time. So on this breath, ask yourself, can you feel the pressure in your hip bone hand? And see what the answer is. On your next breath, ask, can you feel your tummy hand still dropping? See what the answer is. And on your next breath, just focus on the back of you and see if anything changes into those 3 heavy spots or if they stay about the same. Now we're going to keep going with that breath for me. So nice normal breath in and a normal breath out. And if you want to, you can start to breathe out through your mouth. But when you do breathe out through your mouth, I want you to avoid kind of blowing out a candle. You're not going to purse your lips and really blow out from your neck. You're going to do it with a really soft breath from your soft lips. So you're going to almost feel like you're breathing out from the base of your tummy out. So it's more of a sigh, okay? A gentle sigh. So you can either continue to breathe through your nose, or if you want to breathe out through your mouth, then use that sigh. We're not forcing air out. We're just trying to change a little bit of what we call the tone, so that how tight it feels or how hard it feels in your tummy. And on your next breath, if you're happy with what we're doing, if you're not, pause, come back to us in a second. But on your next breath, we're going to pick up one leg, and it's going to come so that the knee sort of sits above the hip. And this is what we call tabletop. Okay, so this is a single leg tabletop. Now, if I drop my heel here, that's what I call lazy tabletop. And if I lift my foot up towards the ceiling and it's roughly parallel to the floor, that's full tabletop. But what's really important is what's going on in the front of your hips. If you give the front of your hip a really nice kind of squidge, it should feel quite soft. And if it doesn't, just drop your shin until you're in that lazy tabletop position and see if it does. So you shouldn't feel any kind of guitar strings, any thick guitar strings going on there. And if everyone's down here with their heel at their kind of bottom, if you start to pick up that foot, eventually you'll start to feel a stretch in the back of your thigh, and also you'll feel your quad start to kick in and start to get a little bit firmer. And then you can just bend that knee again and you'll feel the point which it starts to switch off. And you can feel the kind of muscle belly, which is what we call the kind of main part of the muscle. And then if you feel up around your hip crease, think your knicker line, then you'll feel if it's soft. Now, tabletop should always be in this soft place, okay? It shouldn't be hanging on to the front of your hip. And then just put that leg down for me. And we're going to do the same on the other side. So as you sigh out, you're just going to let that leg float up. So again, experience what it's like. So can you feel the front of your hip? See if it's roughly squishy. You shouldn't be able to feel any kind of those guitar strings or anything really poking out. The muscle, you'll feel a little bit hard, but it's not really, really working. Okay, and then just put that leg back down again. Now, the leg and this front of your hip will work on the way up and the way down. It's inevitable. You can't stop it, you can't change it. Okay, those are the muscles that pick up the leg. So if you don't want them to work, then you can't pick up the leg. But what we want is when you're in tabletop, they can let go. So as you breathe out here, see if you can find that tension into your hip bone and then allow the leg to come towards tabletop. Put it back down again. And you're going to do the other side. So find that tension and then lift the other leg up. And we're just going to keep going with this. So this is almost just walking. Okay, we're picking a leg up. It's like we're going up and down stairs, and then we're letting it come to the floor. And what I want you to do in this is just feel those 3 heavy points in the back of you. So they should be roughly the same. There should be a breath of fresh air in your lower back, because we all have these natural curves and we want to maintain them when we're doing these sorts of basic abdominal movements. So we can inhale on the way up and we can exhale on the way down, or you can do it the other way. So ultimately you want to be able to do both, okay? But what you want to feel is which one's easier for you. And generally, start with the easier one. And you're just going to keep doing that for a while. And I want you to again ask yourself those questions. So number 1, can you feel that as you breathe out, your hip bone muscle is starting to kick on? So on that lowering phase, can you feel the hip bone? Can you feel the release as you breathe in to lift the leg? Can you feel it switch back on again as you take the leg down? Your next question is is your tummy still rising and falling? So it shouldn't be popping up towards the ceiling. That's what we're looking out for. Now, if it is, you can just regress this and keep it into lazy tabletop and literally just have your foot coming really close to your bottom. Or you can stack your feet up on some books, which are against a wall or something, and come from a bigger height. Okay, that just reduces your range of movement, so it just makes the movement a little easier. Your final choice is if you feel like your head really is tipping back that way, then you should have a few pillows anyway. But your final choice is that you can prop up a little bit more pillows, so you're almost in this position. Okay, because that will just, again, cut a little bit of slack in the front of your tummy. And it will just make it a little bit easier to work. Now, the final question I have for you is, are those 3 heavy spots staying the same? Now, what you might feel on that bit is that your pelvis is slightly kind of dropping a little bit more onto one side. So you'll feel as I lift my left leg, you'll kind of feel your pelvis slightly shift a little bit. So I quite often use the analogy of a lily pad on a pond. So there's a little bit of movement, but it's not, I can't really see it. And you shouldn't really be able to see it. So if your hands are on your hips, if you were taking a look, you're not seeing your pelvis kind of shift side to side like that, okay? All you're seeing or all you're feeling is a little bit of a wobble. And that's really normal because your pelvic half, so half of your pelvis has to move in order for the leg to lift. So keep that hand on your tummy for me, and we're going to take that into tabletop. So full tabletop, that's a double tabletop. So choose whichever leg you want, and as you sigh out, you're going to lift one leg. And we're going to leave it there, and you're going to let it drop to lazy tabletop. Take a nice big breath in, and as you sigh out, can you find that connection to lift the other leg? So right now, you should be feeling decent or a little bit of work along your tummy. You shouldn't be feeling anything in your back. And we're going to take one leg down and then the other leg down. So obviously it's a lot harder to lift that second leg. And what we're looking for is that you don't go pop, pop, or even arch your back, or even push your back into the floor. We don't want to push our back into the floor because that's not how we naturally are when we're standing. We want to maintain those natural curves. So we're going to do that again. Again, choose your leg. As you sigh, lift one leg up and let it drop to lazy tabletop. As you sigh out again, lift the other leg to let it join. Sigh out again, one leg comes down and the other leg comes down. And we're going to keep going, and I want you to try and alternate. So this time, I'm going to lift the opposite leg to start. And I want you to see if one leg lifting first is easier. Now normally the side that we choose first is the side that we're going to find a little bit easier. So just notice, is your tummy popping? That's the first thing I want you to feel. And if it is, remember those modifications. So you can lift your head, you can come from a smaller range, you can put your feet on books, anything you need to do. Now you will feel, like we say, the tone. So how hard your tummy is will change. But imagine you're in a lift. And if you were in a lift, you want it to really nicely go up and down between the floors. That's what your tummy is kind of doing. Now if it pops, okay, it's like you've been shot up 10 floors. And there's a ride that does something similar to that in Florida, I think. In fact, I think it drops 10 floors. But it's the same thing. So if you suck that tummy in, okay, without finding that connection across your lower tummy, all it's going to feel is that your tummy goes like that, and it drops 10 floors. And if you're feeling your tummy pop, it means that it's shooting up 10 floors. So we want that lift ride, that kind of movement in your tummy to be really nice and easy. And my next challenge to you when you do this is, can you talk? I want you to tell me what you're having for dinner, what you've had for breakfast, what your plan is for the day. I want you to take me through anything you can. Tell me your hobbies. Just keep talking. Now, does it sound like you're constipated and working really hard? If it does, then clearly you're working too hard. So this should be easy, okay? And you're going to keep doing this until you start to feel that it is easier. Okay, this is just the basis for a lot of our abdominal work. Now that doesn't mean you can't do any of the classes later on, but it just might mean that this is where you need to stay if we come up into tabletop and start working there. So if you can get this basis right, and you can feel that gentle connection across your lower abdominals, if you can feel your tummy rising and falling, if you can feel those 3 heavy spots in the back of you staying roughly the same as you lift, and you can still talk and hold a conversation, then you know you're pretty good, and we can just start progressing and making those abs harder. Take a breath there. Well done. Roll onto your side and push yourself up. So remember with that, you will feel it in the front of your hips, and that's okay. Yes, they might get a little bit tired. Again, that's okay. But I look forward to seeing you in our abs progression.